Zevahim Daf Samach Beir Amud Aleph, second wine line, Tanur Manan. Keren vekevesh v'yisod v'rebuat me'akvin. The horn, the ramp, and the base, and the square-shaped mizbeach are the only thing that are required in the architectural requirements. Midat orko, midat ruhbo, midat kumoto me'akvin. Length, width, and height measurements are not required. There's no definitive numbers. يعني how to know this. Amar Rav Huna, Amar Kirada Pasuk, Am Mizbeach, Mizbeach. Kol makom shenamar Mizbeach, the Akev anytime mentions the word Mizbeach is to make it required. And it's only mentioned by the horns, ramp, base, and squaring shape. Whereas that's the case. Kiyor, the design. Over here, kiyor does not mean the kiyor, it means kiyur, which is the design, the special effects, the design that was the patterns. And the ledge also should be required. Active. The Tanabata says, Ezo Karkov, what's the Karkov? Because the Kigur is the design. The Hasud is refers to the ledge. So the word Mizbeach is mentioned there also. That means also required. Gemara says, In, yes. The Tanabata says, Oto Hayom Nifkema Ke Mizbeach. On that day, the horn of Mizbeach was damaged. The day that a Tzeduki, a non-observant, Apikoros Kohen poured the libations over his feet instead of pouring on the Mizbeach. And it was Sukkot, and everybody threw their etrogim in, killed him, and they also damaged the horn. The Heviu Bul Shemelach, and they brought a bunch of salt, v'samu, and they covered the damage. The only place shekasher avodah doesn't mean it's kasher. Elo shelo yireh mizbeach hagum, they don't be able to see that it was damaged. Shekom mizbeach she'en lo keren v'kevesh v'yisod v'ruach pasul. Any mizbeach doesn't have the horn, ramp, base, or shape, is square shape, is pasul. Even he also adds, as we see the ledge and the design also is required. Tamran, Ezo Karkov, what part is the Karkov? Ben Kidden, the kin between each horn. Mekom Hiluach Raglia Kohanim Mama. There's a little Ama high beautiful design that helped them from the Kohanim to walk in between. Atu Kohanim begin can have hazard. The Kohanim didn't walk horn to horn. The horn would block them. The horn says no. Ela Emma Umakom Hiluach Raglia Kohanim Hema Hama. Now where they were walking around near the horns, that Ama side. One second, Pasuk says that below on the wall in the bath is also a karakuf. What does that mean? The Gemara says Amar ben Achman and Ishaq. Today you have there are two different karakovs. Had lenoy, one was decorative on the side of the bath. But had lakonim tlush lakom, one of them was the extra thing on top that they wouldn't slip. Yeah. Thank you. Midat roko, midat rachbo, midat kumato imakim. We said that the height, length, and width are not required. I'm not be mani who. Rabbi Meir says. Well, the Rashi lo yiftachenu mizbeach she'asa Moshe. As long as they don't change the initial mizbeach measurements from Moshe Rabbeinu. The comma, what is that? Mari said, Amma, a square. Mahkul, they laughed at him. Hamish amot orech v'chamesh amot rocha v'ravua hi hamizbeach. It says 5 amot long, 4 amot wide, squared. Not one. No, he's saying that the actual site of the fire should be Amma wide. He's like, Abaye, who's a great man, he knew what I was referring to. Karolayu, and those who made fun of him, he called them Bnei Keturah, the sons of Keturah. Keturah was known as Hagar. But he says people who aren't acting nicely, that he calls people are called Keturah because the people who are part of Bnei Israel, they're the ones who are more kinder. But now, another story about this concept, the sons of Rabbi Tefon, were sitting in front of Tefon and Halacha, and they weren't saying anything. Patach Mamar, he said, Pasuk, Vayosef Abraham Vayikach Isha Ushma Yohani. He said, Abraham went and took a wife whose name was Yohani, and her name was actually Keturah. Amna, they said, 1 second, Keturah Ktiv, he says it's Keturah. He says, oh, Kare Lehem Bnei Keturah. He's like, yes, exactly, I want you guys to pay attention. You guys are quiet. I'm going to call you guys the sons of Keturah. The wood that Moshe made for the Mizbeach, or Ama was a 1 amma long, the Amma 1 amma wide, the thickness was the same. There's like a leveler that's used to cut off to even out the top of a measurement. But Amma Giduma is not the full size of Amma of 6 tefachim. It is referring to an Amma of 5 tefachim. Marv Yosef, Vilav Han Tana, this is the same part that says, Allah Haisim Asher Al Shahar Mizbeach. Shalio Etzim Yus'im Petach Klum, Mizbeach Klum. Seemingly, it teaches you, the fact that the wood is only on the Mizbeach teaches you that the wood should not protrude at all. Same Beraita teaching the same thing, that it should not be more than Amma. Tanaratam, Kevesh Hayal Dramash Mizbeach. There's a ramp on the side of Mizbeach. Orech Shoshim Ushtain Al Rohav Sheshesh Esrei. It was 32 amot long, 32 amot long, which is quite long, and it was 16 amot wide. Minami, I know this Amarav Ibn Amar Kirav Shahat Oso Al Direch Mizbeach Safona. He just slaughtered the Korban at the side of the Mizbeach in the north. Shiyeh Yarech Basafon Upanav Drom. The Mizbeach should be in the north, and the thigh of the Mizbeach should be in the north, and the face of the Mizbeach should be in the south, which means the ramp, which is facing upward, should be by the Mizbeach's front, and the front will be in the south. Maybe the thigh is referring to the north, and the face is also referring to the north. Why would you say that the face means the opposite side? Maybe it's the same side. The Gemara says, "Marava, Ramya Gavra Peh." No, if you compare it to a person who's laying down on his face, and also his legs and face point in different directions. Amal Rabaya Adraba, opposite. Teris ve'otiv Gavra, let the man sit straight up and they're pointing in the same direction. Why are you saying they're laying down? Marle, Ravu Aktiv, Pasuk is written as Ravua, which is a play on the word that means squared. It also can mean someone who's laying down. That's how we go that way. Muhammad Ma'aleh Merba Ruvay. One second, the Pasuk teaches you that you need to be known as square. How do you learn it from something else? Remember, it says Miktiv Miruba. It doesn't say Miruba, which is the standard way of saying squared. It's written Ravua, which means also laying down. Ultimately, according to what you just said, Miktiv Ravut doesn't say Ravut either. Ravut also means laying down, the standard way. Ravua Ktib Dimash Mehachi Mash Mehachi. Exactly. It specifically wrote Ravua, which means squared and laying down. That's how we know the directions. This Tana learning from Tzayin Pasuk. Right, that Tana where it says, Rabbi Damer, Umaloteo Pinot Kazim. Pasuk mentions by Mizbeach, the ramp turns eastward. Kol Pinot Shata Ponen Lo Yu Ela Derech Yamin Mizrach. Whenever you make a turn, you should always make to the right on Mizbeach. Kohen goes up, makes a right, it'll be facing east. And that only works if you're going up from the southern side to turning right to east. The Gemara says, okay, Emma Simol Mizrach, maybe you turn left. You'll be facing east. The Gemara says, Losat Aditach. When it says that the basin that Shlomo Melech made, like the Kohanim that dipped themselves in, עומד על 12 בקר, 3 פנים, צפון 3 פנים, ממערב 3 פנים, נגבה 3 פנים, מזרחה. That basin was held by 12 oxen, 3 turns north, 3 west, 3 south, 3 east. And therefore we see, whenever you turn to the east. Because it mentions northwest, southeast, which is counterclockwise, which is to the right. Okay. One second. Why would you say that? Maybe just teaching you what was on the oxen. Where says no, imkan, ponim mamli. Why does it mention the word turning? They said it all turning. Why does it mention turning? Must be that that's the correct way you're supposed to turn. Shal Rabbi Shimon ben Yosef ben Lekunya ben Rabbi Yosef has a question. Omer Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai said, Bar Yochai, Aver yesh bosh ben keves lemizrach. If was there a space between the ramp and the mizbeach? Meaning, was there a little hole, like the train, like a little space in between? Amar Lula says to him, "Vi ata yeta American, what you already know that, right?" So. Ta'ala Kvarna Pasuk says, "Ve'asita olotecha habasar v'adam." You should make the olah korbanot, the meat and the blood, seemingly. Madam bezikah, just like the blood is being put on the beach through throwing. Apasar bezikah, so the meat's also being thrown, meaning you can't go on the beach. You have to throw it from the top of the ramp. The Gemara says, Amar lo, he said back to him, Shani omer omer betzad ma'aracha v'zorek. He says, no, that also means that it doesn't have to mean that it's detached and you're throwing it. It means you could just stand on the top next to it and then throw it. The Gemara says. Amar no, it says no. When he's throwing it, he's throwing into the fire, it's burning. Maybe he's not throwing it to the fire. He must be throwing it. It has to, we have to say it's going to the burning side. Because, and he has to throw it because it's impossible to put it otherwise, and therefore the hekesh is not required. So it must be the hekesh teaching you a new halacha, but there is a space. Kidam, the hekesh teaches you the following halacha about blood. Just like in the case of blood, the airspace of the ground between the Kohen and the blood is a considered separation, meaning he has to throw it very close. Is also regarding meat as well. And therefore, he can't have thrown it from the top because there's no gap. And therefore, there must be um Yeah, so it must be that there's no gap. Okay, there is a gap. Not many people knows there were two small ramps that went from that stuck out from the main ramp. Shebahen ponim le'esul say that the Kohanim could use to turn towards the base or towards the ledge, like intersections in Jersey where they have all these different ways you can turn in and out. Move the Lim and Mizbeach Milo Neman, they were separated from the Mizbeach by a tiny bit. Because the Pasuk says Saviv, around, which means to be uninterrupted. Rabbi Abba Amar, Ravua, squared, same thing. These rams touch the Mizbeach, it wouldn't be a square. As mentioned, squared and around. If you only mention around, because you thought you might be thinking to make a circle. Therefore, therefore it's right squared. Because I'm not of only mentioned squared, have a minute that maybe you might think it could be like a rectangle, long and short, square. So Rahman say therefore right around as well. Okay, Tanan Hada Mishnah says Hakevish from Mizbeach Shishim Mishnah the ramp and the Mizbeach together were 62 amot long. The Gemara says Hana Shitin Vad Bahavu. 1 second. If there were 32 amot each, it should have been 64, not 62. Or it says the ramp technically overlapped one amma over the base and one amma over the ledge, so it took up 62 amot space. All the ramps by the Bet HaMikdash were 3 amot high. Sorry, they went up 3 amot for every amma they passed. So every amma walking, you went up 3 amot higher. That's like the level. Except for the ramp from the Berg, you do the math, 32 amot over 9 amot tall, it means that it went approximately 3 amot and 5/9 of an amma horizontally upward for every amma that you walked. And that refers to in the way you're measuring it, he measured it with etzba'ot. Uh, 32 over 9. Sorry, 24. He says, because you could also measure through etzba'ot, which are fingers, 24 asba on a finger. So he says it's around 3.5 amot plus 1/18th, and he's referring to the bigger finger. That's the one that you measure it with.